Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am Jonathan Logan, aka JLo, and I'm here with Victor Vizcaino, or Coach Victor, with Express Your Mission Coaching. Victor and I have met through a different number of coaching programs that we've been in, and I'm just delighted to hear his stories all the time as I'm in the coaching programs. So I wanted to hear from Victor directly and give people an opportunity to learn from him, to see what he's doing, to get excited about what he's doing, and to hear more from Victor. So, Victor, let's just start off. Maybe you could take a second. Express Your Mission Coaching is a great brand. I love it. But why don't you take 30 seconds and just roll us through what does that mean for you and what are you offering folks?
Absolutely. But first, let me just thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here. Thank you. And yes, I am the founder of Express Your Mission Coaching. And the reason I named it Express Your Mission because I chose to express myself through endurance sports. I feel that my running and doing triathlons is my way of expressing myself, and I thought, okay, that's a good name. I'll name that my business. And it's where I help people transform their life through coaching them through their training in endurance sports, whether that be marathon, triathlons, and maybe some shorter races in between.
Nice. Oh wow. Well, that right there is inspirational. I used to I ran in high school and college, and I have to just be honest and say I had nice coaches. They were good guys, but nobody with any talent. And so I'm excited to hear from you about your program and what you're doing with people. Let's just get started. Tell us the story behind how you got started with marathons, triathlons, and so forth. What inspired you and got you rolling?
Absolutely. Great question, Jonathan. I started with a challenge from my sister. My sister actually was the one that invited me. She said, "Hey, you should come training with me for the LA Marathon." This was back in like 2004.
Mhm.
And by then, I think she had done one or two prior to her inviting me. And my first thought was, if she can do it, should be easy. I can do it. But yeah, it was a lot harder than I thought. But at first, I thought she was inviting me to go just run it because I thought, oh,
Mhm.
she said we start. It's in a couple of weeks. So I went and ran like 6 miles and practically died. And I called her and I said, "There's no way I can run 26 miles." And she said, like, "No, dummy, the training starts in 2 weeks." But oh, okay. So
Okay.
I had plenty of time to train. And at the time, I had gained a little bit of weight, both from doing weights and a little bit of fat accumulation, where I've gained probably total of 15, between 15 and 20 pounds. So when she said, let's train for a marathon, I thought, oh, okay, this will be a good way for me to get lean again.
Yeah.
And that's the way I saw it. I'd never thought of doing another one other than like I will train for this one. I knew it was going to take a lot of time. But as I trained for that one, I really liked the way I felt. I was starting to feel
Mm.
really good. Like once I started getting in shape, once I started, I forgot exactly how long it took to start feeling that way, but I'm
Mhm.
gonna guess it was probably by the second month of training. I
Mm.
felt that I was getting in shape, that I looked forward to like the next miles because it was called the Road Runners in Ventura, and we would meet once a week on Sundays as a group, and
Mm.
they would add like 1 mile at a time. So if last week was 10, next week would be 11 miles. And I remember the anticipation of like, oh, it's going to be 11 miles, and just really looking forward to it. Whereas at first it was like, oh my gosh, I got to run another 5, 6 miles. Now I really was starting to look forward to it. And that's how I got started first. Um, the feeling at the start line is incredible on your first marathon because and they warned us about this, that we would have so much energy because you taper off a
Mm.
few weeks before the marathon, and so you energy is just really high that you actually have to have discipline to slow yourself down because you're so anxious. People hardly sleep the night before. That's what I felt. I felt like just the excitement and anticipation of running the race,
Yeah.
and especially in a big race like the LA Marathon, where like you with thousands of people, and so that feeling where your body feels like, oh my gosh, I feel like I am so ready for this because it's just packed with energy, and it's an
Mm.
amazing feeling that. mm, I right after I finished that race, I'm like, I'm ready for my next one. I am, and
Wow.
when I told people my time, some because I felt like I wasn't as fast as I thought I was going to be,
Hmm.
because I did stop a few times. I did get some cramps where I had to walk, and my mind is like, had I not had to stop for that, had I not cramped, I could have probably done better. But then when I told other people my time, they were like, "Oh my gosh, that was pretty good." I think it was 3 hours 42 minutes. They
Wow.
said, "You could qualify for Boston." I thought, "Oh, what do I need?" And I think I needed to shave off about 35 minutes of my time.
Okay.
But at that
Okay.
time, I was new to. I didn't know what it would take to shave off 35 minutes. Like, oh yeah, I'll do it next year. Next year, I'll qualify for Boston. Well, it took me 17 more marathons and
Wow.
6 years to finally qualify. But by then, I was pretty hooked to
Yeah.
endurance sports, and that's how it all started. I After that, it was the next thing was Ironman, because I was
Wow.
cross training. I used the cross training to actually improve my running, and that's how I actually qualified finally for the Boston Marathon. It was while training for an Ironman, or the long course triathlon, that I made those improvements in my running. So it was right in the middle of the training for triathlon that I actually qualified for
Right.
the Boston Marathon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. That must have been a super exciting moment when you qualified.
Yes, absolutely. And I did feel like I was transformed both physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. That's amazing. Well, that's a really big effort that you put in over a considerable amount of time. Was there ever a time when you thought, like, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to quit, I'm not going to make it, it's just too hard? I mean, I'm sure a lot of the people that you coach all have those same feelings come up. It's like, the first time they think about, I'm going to run a marathon, like, that's a long distance, or I'm going to do a
Yeah.
triathlon, it's like, oh man, that's three different things, I got to do that. So what's your experience with that? Did you ever have that
Yes,
feeling?
definitely had it many times. And you easily forget those times because you start to celebrate your accomplishment and you're excited, that you forget those hard times until they happen again or you get hurt
Okay.
again. And for me, it was this weekend when I fell off the bike. The immediate thing is
Yeah.
like, I'm done. I'm never going to get on the bike. And
Yeah.
but in my first marathon was probably my first injuries were plantar fasciitis. I got it in one
Hmm.
foot, and that's when the doubt started coming. Oh, this is not worth it. I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know how long it's going to take for me to heal from this. I got to go to work. I was a UPS
Right.
driver, and here I'm limping. I'm
Oh
supposed to be doing
wow.
this thing, this healthy thing, and here I'm limping at work because I have plantar fasciitis. But as I started hearing other athletes or talking about it, oh, that's common. It's
Okay.
very curable, and they gave me all these therapies that I should do. Okay, fine. My foot healed, and then when I went back to running, of course the coaches were like, slow down so that you don't get
Mm.
hurt again. But at that
Mhm.
time I didn't listen. I'm like, I can't slow down. I got too much energy. And then it happened in the other foot. And my other
Oh.
foot had plantar fascia, in the same kind of mentality. When it's like, oh man, I don't listen. I am prone to injuries. But these are common when you don't
Mhm.
take those necessary precautions.
Right.
And yeah, you forget about those injuries until you suffer some other setback, and then you remember, oh
Mm.
yeah, I remember what that's
Right.
like. And
Wow.
Yeah. So yes, they
Wow.
definitely come, but as you talk to people, as you work with either the coaches and you listen to them, you find out that these are all things that you can both either prevent or overcome. Mm.
Nice.
And you just got to take those and listen to your coaches, listen to the people that you work out with. That's what's
Hmm.
nice about either having a coach or being in a running group. What
Okay.
is this? One of the quotes, I don't know whose quote it is, but if you want to go fast, run alone. If you want to go far, run together.
Wow.
And that
Wow.
does it. I found it so true with all of my clients that the bigger their support group, the bigger people that they have to rely on or accountability partners and everything, the better they do.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that before from different athletes that have done group stuff. That's like working out together in the gym or going on long distance bike rides or swimming, those kinds of things. So, what would you think of the biggest mistakes that new triathletes, new marathoners make? And what do you wish you knew when you were starting out that maybe you didn't? You said you didn't listen to the coaching right away or something, but it's like what things do you teach people that you've learned from your accumulated knowledge and wisdom and from coaching so many people that really help them shortcut and maybe prevent some of those injuries or go faster or run longer, those kinds of stuff?
Yeah, I think the probably the number one is that you should think about the long term. It
Mm,
makes you think more holistically about your training, that you want to be doing these kind of activities to old age and
right.
not so short term focus. Because I think when I started, especially when I decided, oh, I want to qualify for the Boston Marathon,
Right.
and you start to take those shortcuts that you think, I just want to really perform high in my next race. And that is not usually the most healthy thing. Just
Okay.
because you perform real high doesn't mean you're healthy. As we know from the sports, people who take who dope, or people who do not so healthy things, they may perform at their next race, but they're not going to be healthy for the long run. And I think that that was
Right.
probably the biggest lesson. It's like, I want to do this a few years, and I want to be healthy at past my 60th birthday and beyond. If we can think about it that way, I think we'll do many more smart things, listen to the coaches, listen
Hmm.
to all the safety tips, because
Right.
we want to be around. We want to be around, and we want to enjoy the sport
Yeah.
in the long run.
Nice. I love that. We want to be around and we want to enjoy the sport in the long run. Victor, I love that. So you've been coaching a lot of people for a long time. You had really good success, and your clients, your students, your teams have had great success as well. So what's one piece of maybe unconventional advice that you give your athletes that maybe is a little bit of a surprise to them, but it works?
Oh, I think one of the things that I feel I do different, and it's something I did when I qualified for Boston, was counting my cadence, where
Okay.
I count each cadence, and it helps me. I feel like it's sort of a meditation practice for me, because it gives
Mm.
me really hyper focus on
Hmm.
the moment and being present, because I'm counting as I go, and it makes me notice exactly, because then I can focus on where's my foot landing every time, where's
Right.
my form like. And
Mm.
in a long race like a marathon, it makes a huge difference in your energy, and
Right.
having that extra energy at the end, because you're being conservative, because you're being hyper focused.
Right.
The other one would probably be in the spiritual realm, where I learned this from both Anthony Robbins and
Mhm.
Michael Bernard Beckham. Had a few practices, and that's the gratitude. And
Mm.
with Michael Bernard Beckham, he had a forgiveness exercise as well. And these things were
Mm.
probably happening when I went running, and kind of noticing when my moods were high, when my moods were low, and kind of
Right.
what's going on that you're dealing with. And if you're finding that you often certain thoughts bring anger or
Mm.
frustration, then you can have these exercise that the spiritual leaders have to deal with them. And I found that one of those, especially the forgiveness
Hmm.
practice, was very surprising to me. The gratitude, I kind of like, well, that makes sense because you're getting in the mood,
Yeah.
you're being grateful. But
Yeah.
the other one kind of surprised me where, like, huh, I didn't know I was holding on to this anger until I want to wish. I think one of the exercises, can you wish something wonderful to one of your people that you hold anger for? And it's like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
that's a little bit harder. It's like I it's harder for me to get there to. It's like I wish him really
Right.
well,
Right.
and it's like, oh, it's because I'm still holding on to some kind of anger or haven't let go. And like they
Mm-hmm.
say, it's that quote that holding on to resentment. It's like you taking the poison and hoping that they have the effect, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love, wow, that's powerful, Victor. And I love the idea, when you're running a marathon or you're training for a marathon or you're just running 10, 15, 20 miles, you've got a little bit of time to work through those issues, especially if you're doing it day after day, right?
yeah. So yeah, it's. I think you put it exactly right because you do have all that time to yourself.
Mm.
Sometimes it is a great opportunity to do that work and have those conversations in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I love the cadence part too. So the between the cadence part and then the spiritual gratitude practice, that's really cool. Now, tell us a little bit about the cadence part. Maybe go just a little bit deeper. What do you do? Do you count the number of steps? Do you count to 100 and start over again? Do you count
Yeah,
miles? What do you count?
I think that nowadays I'm thinking that it doesn't matter what you count as long as you're focused on this rhythm. It doesn't make a
Mm.
difference. But for me, it used to be the cadence that I wanted. So I wanted to do 90, I think it was 92 revolutions per minute, where I thought
Okay.
that's the most efficient number of cadence or revolutions per
Cadence
minute.
achieve go.
So
Right.
that I started to calculate, okay, so that if I need 92, so how many times am I going to count to 92 before I get to the first mile? Okay, if
Okay.
I'm doing 7 minute miles, then I need to count seven times or seven and a half times.
Right.
And then it was a game like, okay, counted that's one time, two times, three times. And by the time I got to the seventh time, okay, I only have to count this to half of that, which is around 45, 46. And sometimes it would be right on the money. It's like, boom, oh man, I got this
Wow.
right on the money. I'm doing 92 revolutions per minute. So then the game say, oh, can I do better in my next mile? And can I get in the target? And actually, you become sort of excited to the next mile to see if you can do that. But what I was
Yeah.
starting to notice also that if at times when I was training and I wasn't counting, it started to feel like I was going. My pace would slow down, and I would feel like more effort. Like, oh my gosh, I'm working hard. But when I was counting, it was getting easier
Mm.
and more efficient.
More efficient. Wow.
Yeah. And of
That's
course, when I did qualify for the Boston, that was the big surprise. Is like when I hit, usually about mile 20, I would start to hit the wall, and it was
mhm.
I had to push really hard. And this time, when I was counting, I got to mile 20, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel really good. I think this is going to happen, and I kept that energy all the way
Yeah.
to the finish line, which was the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. What a great story. Thank you for sharing that. I'm imagining using that myself. That's fantastic. Thank you. Have you made a video on that yet? Have you
Yeah,
put a
I think
video
I've
out about
done
that?
a couple of contents over that. I want
Okay.
to keep doing content because I'm discovering more and more of
Hmm.
the how therapeutic it is. Because
Yeah.
at first it was just like, oh, it's very mechanical. It makes me focus on my form. It makes me focus on this. But I think they're starting to feel like it's more than that, because the body works on a rhythm that you're
Mm,
going, and it
hmm.
creates this trance. You
Yeah.
fall into a trance where I think it helps you when you're not counting. All of a sudden, you become better at focusing and whatever it is
Right.
that you focus, because you've trained yourself to
Right.
focus. Well, the other thing that was happening, and I'm discovering, is that the creativity increases as well. And
Ah.
of course, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I like to listen to neuroscience and
Yeah.
all they talk about these pathways and everything. But I feel that the reason why the creativity grows is because you are very hyper focused and very
Mm,
mechanical about it. Then all of a sudden, when it stops, all of a sudden the rush of ideas come rushing in,
nice.
or maybe they always there, but this time now you can actually feel them or pay
Mm,
attention to those ideas and those voices. And when you're dealing with all these endorphins and epinephrine, whatever all these chemicals are when you're
hmm.
running,
Yeah.
it seemed to intensify, because some of the ideas I can get like super excited about. Oh wow, I never thought of that. I gotta write it down. I gotta
Yeah.
practice it. And yeah,
Nice. That's fantastic. Yeah. And I think that you've hit on a couple of really important points is that, when you're doing that kind of consistent exercise, your cardiovascular system improves. So you're improving your blood flow to your brain, but you're also getting into that trance kind of what Stephen Kotler calls the flow state, right?
right.
Csikszentmihalyi, the flow state, and that frees up the subconscious mind to be creative, just like you said. So that's really cool, man. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So yet another benefit of having you as a coach, Victor, and also of doing the triathlons and doing the marathons. Another wonderful side benefit. So let me
Good.
ask you this: people get inspired and they get lit up and they get excited about the idea of doing it. Is it once they've done a couple of marathons and triathlons, do they find like it's their life is better? Do they find like they're happier? Is this in general a good thing for mental and spiritual health as well?
Yes, I think all of the above for the most part. I haven't heard too many people who have like regretted ever starting to do these endurance. Usually it is they find that they're healthier, that they want to
Yeah.
keep doing this for the health reasons, and they just feel much better.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. And what about community? Do people find, one of the things that's happening in the modern industrial world and all that, America and places, is that people feel lonely. And it seems like a really nice place to come meet fun, positive, healthy, fit people that want to enjoy life. It sounds like a great place to meet people and just for the
Yeah.
sake of community.
Yes, one of the things I found is that everybody's so nice, and even from the running community to the triathlon community, everybody's so nice to each other.
Mm,
It's amazing, and I think I would have never discovered it had I not been part of it.
right.
But yeah, it is very, very nice feeling. It's very nice to be part of a community that is constantly supporting, no matter what. They're very, very nice to each other. They uplift,
Mm,
encouragement, and everything so well. I've been different from what you see with other sports on TV, and I don't know if it's actually that, because I'm not at too many like soccer games or anything like that. I just see what I see on TV, and sometimes parents yelling at each other or teams. But
right.
if I want to be honest, I remember being at a boxing ring with Pacquiao's first fight, and I remember
Hmm.
that guy next to me getting up and just yelling like he was with the
Oh,
other
yeah, yeah.
party, and it seemed like a very aggressive move. And it's like, yeah, you don't see that in marathons, right?
Right.
Although sometimes it's nice to pass a competitor or something like that, you don't often see, yeah, in your face.
Right. Eat my dust,
Yeah.
right? That kind of thing. Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's cool. Wow. Well, I'm sure a lot more people have thought about running a marathon and getting trained for that, or doing a triathlon and getting trained for that, than actually have done it. And I suspect that there's a lot of people who have fears, whether, you mentioned to me about swimming. The big one is for people is open water. For cycling, it's maybe falling and getting in a wreck or things like that. And for running a tendon or something like this, what do you think the biggest fear in each of those three categories is the swimming, the running, the biking? What's the biggest fear, and what's the truth behind that fear?
I think one of the fears is getting hurt.
Mm.
Definitely, and this probably covers on all the sports, but yes, fear because running is probably the one where people get hurt the most. It's
Oh, wow.
very high impact.
Okay.
So being able to avoid those injuries and doing all the things that people learn throughout the years of preventing injuries, like making sure that you are warming up before your workouts, making sure you're doing the stretches afterward, all these things that people can do to minimize the risk of getting injuries, and it makes the sport much better.
Right.
And then the bike is probably less injuries, but more severe if you get into an
Mm.
accident.
Right.
So that doesn't cause fear, and people's like they don't want to fall because taking a fall on the bike, as I did last week, can be sets you back quite a bit, and it can be very painful as well.
Right.
So that could be one of the most, and that is just also being cautious out there. Even when you're especially doing the speed, learning from other teammates, learning from videos
Mm.
of how to handle the bike, the
Right.
common mistakes that people make. And some of them are just reminders because even though I've been doing triathlons for a long time, I've taken huge breaks where you forget some of the things. And when I watch a
Ah.
video, it's like, oh, I forgot because I was starting to get back on the bike and I did a lot of stuff on the trainer, but when I went outside, I tended to want to handle the bike by the handlebars, doing the turns.
Mm.
And then I said, yeah, don't. One of the videos says, don't rely so much on the handlebars. You want to steer the bike
Right.
from your seat post, the
Mm.
whole bike, kind of like when you
The
see
whole bike.
motorcycles, they lean the whole bike to
Right.
left, and that's how you steer. And like, oh, that makes sense. That's because a lot of times when we get nervous and feared or going down a hill where you're going fast, if your attention's only on the wheel, it can easily lose
Mm.
control. Whereas you are steering it with your whole body, and from the seat post, you're steering the whole bike. You have more
Right.
control of the bike, and it's like, oh, I do remember that. And there's stuff that you just forget. Like I used to have a paper route when I was 11 years old,
Okay. Yeah.
and I remember like you had your newspapers on the handlebars,
Right.
and if you
Okay.
try to
Oh, wow.
steer it on the newspaper, it was hard. You store the whole bike, and it's
Right.
like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I just when you are speeding and you're nervous, especially at an older
Right.
age, you tend to forget these things. And
Right.
if you're just more
Right.
conscious about it, it's like, yeah, just remember. People say you never forget to ride a bike, but you might forget certain techniques.
Yeah. Wow. Well, again, this is all leading for me. If I'm looking for coaching, it's like this is another reason why I want to work with someone who's got the experience, the expertise, has trained a lot of people because these things come up, and I'd rather not be injured. I'd rather not crash my bike. I'd rather not be afraid out in the deep water.
Yeah,
And so it's like these kinds of issues are the exact reasons why
yeah,
you want to have an expert coach. And it seems to me, and Victor, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's probably a transition period when someone starts where they have a little bit of uncertainty. They want to do it, but they're not sure. And they get into it and they're learning and they're like, there's this learning curve that you go through, right? But how long does it take someone to get into you said it took you about 2 months of running to get to the point where it was exciting and it felt good for your body. But on the psychological and the emotional side, how long does it take someone with your coaching to get to the place where they feel comfortable and reasonably confident that it's like, okay, I know I can do this now?
I think it's different for each one depending on their
Mhm.
fitness level or their
Mhm.
experience. If they're coming from another sport and now they're wanting to do this, or they're just coming out from um, doing hard workouts, because I've had clients where they're doing a ton of exercises, stuff at the gym, spin classes. They have all this discipline. Then now the transition it's much quicker because okay,
Mhm.
you're in shape. Now we got to take all of those skills and put them specifically to swim, bike, run, and
Right.
they tend to really quickly feel comfortable
Mm.
and have more fun at it. If they're coming straight from the couch, it's probably going to take a little longer,
Right.
but they also see results quicker too because it's more dramatic. But everything's a little
Right.
bit more dramatic to their shock to their system because they weren't used to working out. Could have first be like, oh my God, this is hard. And
Right.
I think that usually by the second month, it starts to feel much better. And
Yeah.
like I said, it's different for everybody. But and there's so many little things that they can do to make the experience much more. Like I like for them to sign up for a short
Mhm.
5K race where you start to get a lot of that nervousness and excitement about
Right.
happening. I think that's one of the differences between working out at the gym and not having an event to look forward to. Because I used to do that. I used to go to the gym. It's like, I want to make this my lifestyle. I want to go to the gym 3, 4 days a week. But life gets in the way, or you start to lose motivation or excitement because
Mm.
that's
Mm.
what's lacking from doing the running and triathlon is that you can sign up for a race and now it feels like, oh, I'm preparing for something. So I used to
Cool.
think of the marathons as like a graduation party. So when you finish, like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm doing a 6 month training for this huge event, you're preparing, and it is so exciting to finally get there and kind of test all that work that you put into and see a
Right.
result.
Right.
So for answer to your question is, yeah, if you put some of those little things in between, it can really heighten that excitement
Mm.
and motivation.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now you've coached a lot of people and you've had a lot of success, and your athletes have had a huge success and wonderful time and personal transformations and stuff. Maybe just without using names, if that's the right thing to do, maybe give us a couple of examples of people who really had this kind of transformation that you talk about.
Oh, absolutely. Well, one was just the level. I think the transformation was more of the level of excitement, and
Mm.
this is she actually did a video, so she's very open about it. She likes to talk about it. She did a video in one of my testimonials, and Zippy came to me because she wanted to train for the New York Marathon,
Right? Wow.
and just I just want to finish. And but she was super excited, and she was another one that did a lot of workouts that had nothing to do with marathoning, but her
Okay.
friends invited her, and I could tell by her level of excitement. It's like you're gonna become addicted. And it's like no, no, no. This is a I don't do marathons. It's a one and
Okay.
done deal. Mm.
Okay.
She finished the marathon. She was super excited, and then I didn't hear from her till like 6 months later. It's like, hey, I signed up for the New York again, and I'd say I told you you're gonna do it, and this time she did have a goal. She wanted to beat 4 hours, and
Okay.
she was, I believe it was either 3:35 or 3:45. I forgot, but it was a total of
Okay.
45 minutes that she shaved from her first marathon.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yes, and that's to me there was a transformation of her level of excitement aboard the sport.
Yeah.
Other ones have been just health wise, where
Mm.
they've just feel so much better,
Hmm.
and you see the transformation just in the way they smile, the way they show
Right.
up to their exercise and all that. So it's not necessarily a transformation of performance, but a
Mm.
transformation of their quality of life, and you see it in their smile.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
that's that's so awesome. That must be so rewarding too, right? To just see people go through that whole process.
Yes, yes. And this journey of self-discovery, because they get to learn from themselves, and what
Mm.
motivates them, what makes their day. And I get to learn how different people get motivated, and how they use different tactics, and everything is a learning experience. And that's one
Mm.
of the reasons I love coaching, where I get to talk to the client at least once a week. And that's my favorite way to approach the coaching, because that's when you really get to know and learn from them, and ask the questions of what is it that holds them back, what is
Yeah.
their stress level, what keeps
Mm.
them up at night, and what you can do about it. Because then that's where you learn that everything is connected. One thing affects another, and you see all these uh, connections to both performance and your level of happiness.
Mm. Wow. Wow. So more physically fit, feeling better in your body, having more energy, feeling better, making friends. I don't know. This sounds like a personal growth program. It
Yeah,
sounds awesome, you know?
absolutely. And I think that's what it is. You do you do sign up for personal growth when you get into a coaching program.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's fantastic. Let me ask you this. If someone is just curious, let's say they see this video out on YouTube or wherever you're going to put it out, and they say, this looks pretty cool. Maybe I ran in high school or college, or maybe I swim, or I've done like a half marathon, but I'm really curious now about going all in and checking it out and seeing more. What would you recommend people do? Is there resources for them to just kind of find out more about it? What would you say?
I say go to my website. It's eymcoaching.com, and see if you would you like to do a 10K, a half marathon,
Mm.
or are you ready for a triathlon? Yeah, it just depends on the timeline, because I
Mm.
went straight with my sister asked me, it was a straight to a marathon. And
Right.
most people, like, they'll do one race or a bigger race, and then they decide, yeah, now I'm ready to do a marathon. But there's nothing wrong with, like, oh my gosh, is it possible for me to do a full Ironman, for example? And
Right.
of course it is. It's just we're going to take more time to do it. It may take 2 years for some people.
Right.
It may take 6 months for another person who's already been training, but it's
Right.
possible. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to do that. And
Hmm.
and then you can go backwards and then say, okay, now we're going to sign up for smaller races as
Right.
we work up to the full Ironman or the full marathon. But yeah, the good place to start is talk to someone. I usually have offers where I have free consultations.
Okay.
So I would encourage someone to go to the website and book a call, and it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
At the very least, we can just say, hey, this is what a workout to a marathon or half marathon would look like for you,
Right.
and maybe come up with a custom training plan.
Right. Right. Wow. Now you live in the Pacific Northwest, but do you have clients all over the country or all over the world or what?
Yes, I haven't had in other countries, but I do have in different states in the country. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
open. If somebody's listening to us in Spain, they should sign up.
That's
Yes,
right. Now you're bilingual, right? You speak
yes, and I'm
Spanish and
bilingual.
English.
So if they need help with Spanish, sí, señor, con mucho gusto, le hablamos español.
Fantastic. So we're talking, Buenos Aires to Seattle, all the way across to, Canada and Europe and everything else. So wow, Victor, This has been such a pleasure. I want to say thank you. I've learned a lot, and feeling like I ought to go bust out some running shoes right now and go for a short run to just feel that high and do my cadence. So, Victor, I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for the time you spent with us today.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure. It was my honor. I've had a good time. We have to do this more often. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll pick up other topics. I wanted to
great.
start. Um, I have a podcast called "Running Your Best Life," and maybe you can come on that one. But I
Okay,
want to start one where we're doing tech as well. Usually, it's
okay.
about running and all that stuff, and I haven't really got into the uh, tech support. And what my plan is with that is just having other people who are having trouble with which watch should they do, um,
Mm,
what um, what gadgets to have. And on my
mm,
podcast, I'm hoping to have people who have tried all kinds of different tech, and they can
great
come and just
idea.
discuss which ones work better for different sports or which one connect. Because like I coach through Training Peaks, and what I'm
Hmm.
finding out, because I have an Apple Watch, it doesn't do very well with Training Peaks because Training Peaks uses a lot of Garmin. So someone with
Oh, Garmin.
Garmin
Yeah,
does
yeah.
much better with Training Peaks. So there's these little differentialities that make a difference in your training, and
Right.
tech plays a big role, especially nowadays. Everybody
Oh,
uses
yeah.
technology. So anyway,
Totally. Wow, that's fantastic. I had no idea. You just keep surprising me, Victor. This is awesome. We should definitely do that. Let's do this. Let's make sure to have all of your website links, newsletter sign up, video sign up, Instagram, all those things down below. So people want to find out more about you, they can reach you at any time. And Victor, again, I'm so grateful. Thanks again for spending this time with us today.
thank you, Jonathan. My pleasure.